Hello, hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to today's live. Today we're doing live readings, and that means I'm going to be here reading charts. You can book a reading with me live. So, the first thing I'm going to do is just check on our live. Oh no. Oh no. I have to fix our sound because I forgot to do something really important, which is plug in the mic. So if I'm lucky, now my mic will be working. So hello, welcome on to today's live video. We're doing live readings, which means this is your chance to book a live reading with me using the link in the comments. And the first thing I need to do really quick is a sound check. And then we're going to get into our video. The link is up. So if you know how this goes and you're ready, you can book now. But if you are new to this, the biggest thing I want you to make sure you do, so you get the most value out of this, is I want you to make sure that the video you're watching is on the current time. And the reason I'm saying this now in all of these lives is because sometimes people join, and I'm an hour into the broadcast, and they book their reading and they don't understand why I'm not answering them, but I am. They're just not at the current time. So make sure you're on the current time. So if you just joined, just make sure that red bar at the bottom is all the way to the right. But I feel like our sound isn't quite where it should be. So let me see if I can fiddle with it for a second. I'm gonna have to come back. It says it's on, but it doesn't. It doesn't sound right. Yeah, I'm going to try coming back and see if that works. So those of you who are... Oh, wait. I think that worked. I think it worked. Okay, so let me know in the chat. Let me know in a comment in the chat. How are you doing with the current energies? As far as like the astrology, how is it hitting you? Are you feeling like it's hitting you in a big way, in a little way? Are you feeling that Venus retrograde going on? Are you feeling awesome? You know, it can go all of the different ways. To me, I'm always my happiest when the moon is in Leo. And guess where the moon is? Nah, I do find that it makes me happy. It makes me more performative. It makes me more like want to tell stories. And, you know, that's fun on the lives. So yay. All right. So for those of you who don't know or who've never seen one of these, I'll tell you guys how this is going to work and what we're about to do. There is a link in the comments. People are going to start booking using that link. And once the first person does, then everyone's going to want to. So keep that in mind. Okay. And then, okay. So once one person books, everyone's going to want to. And our booking link, I'm just going to show you guys how to book, but first I'll tell you what you get. If you book one of these live readings, you get natal or transit. So I'm looking at your natal chart and telling you what jumps out at me. Usually that's going to be some kind of emotional pattern related to what it feels like to be you and what kind of themes come across or happen more often in your life based on what I see in the chart. Now, that's going to be different for everyone because everyone has a different chart, and you might have something in your chart that pops out to me that is totally different than the person before you. So just keep that in mind. And then Okay, so natal, the other is transits. If you choose transits, that's going to be the energy snapshot of like what the planets, how the planets are affecting you now, what areas of life are going slower or faster at the moment, what areas of life maybe you need to have a more sacrifice and discipline, what areas you tend to have more growth, and how to maximize those when possible. That's pretty much what we're going to talk about with transits. We're going to talk about Jupiter probably being in Gemini still and what you can do to get the best out of that before it moves into Cancer in June. If I think Jupiter in Cancer might be good for you, I might talk about how. And I usually do talk about Saturn and maybe even Mars. So, Saturn, I'm going to tell you what area of life might be slower or where you might be more isolated or going it alone or making sacrifices or working hard right now, making contracts or making commitments, and what area of life you can't really cut corners, and whether that Saturn transit is a big life one or a smaller life one. So, Saturn is like making contact to your sun or your moon or your natal Saturn. That's going to be a bigger transit. And so, I can tell you not only that, like, you're right on track with the challenges, but then also what you can do with them, and even better when it's going to end. So if I do one of these live readings on you and we talk about the transits and something challenging comes up, I will definitely give you some dates for when it's going to end. If something good is coming up, I might even give you some dates for when this last happened, and then talk about, what that may have looked like then, so we can get a baseline for what's going to happen in the future. Sorry, I need water. Okay. So, how is everybody feeling with the energies? We're about to have a full moon soon in a couple days. So, the moon is waxing. We're going to have this. Oh, wait, is that an eclipse? Is that an eclipse? Do we have an eclipse that I forgot about? Hold on. I remember looking this up like it feels like a week ago, and I was like, oh, eclipse season's coming soon. I'm just not on top of it. Yeah. Oh, we have an eclipse very soon. Shoot. I'm not ready for that video. That's like on Thursday or Friday. Yeah. That's going to be fun. Eclipse season is quite a time. It's definitely worth, if you don't normally watch broadcasts or your astrology, it's definitely worth it. Because what most people don't know about eclipses is they're going to last 6 months. Like the effect of the eclipse, it's a 6 month thing. It's not a one moment thing. So, like, whatever the eclipse kind of foretells, that thing can happen anytime in the next 6 months. All right. I was like fine, and then I went live, and now I'm coughing my head off. All right, so I'm just going to go now and show you guys how to book a reading, because that's what we are doing today. And let me see. Okay, so you're seeing something kind of like this. And then you click, let me make sure that's showing right. Yeah, then you click. Oh, it's a video and a video. You click on this right here. So this link at the top, and even if you're on the phone, it should be on the top on mobile. And then you just click it, and it'll take you to this page. So this is a page that's going to be where you can actually book the reading. Again, you can choose natal, which is all about you, or transits, which is all about what's happening now. And then you click book, and it's going to take you again to another page. And then you just put in your first and last name, and then your astrology info, and then Click yes here and choose natal or transits, and then hit continue to payment. There's one more page after that where you can pay. And that is how it works. Okay, so I'm actually going to pull the chart up. This is just the chart of the moment, but if you book tonight, this could be your chart that I'm reading. So, that being said, let me think about this. How are you guys feeling about Venus being retrograde and Mercury about to go retrograde? Has anybody felt that energy shift as far as feeling like you need to figure out something, change something about your Venus areas of life, or just kind of a shift or going back to something you did before? You know, the last Venus retrograde, one of the things, the more practical ways Venus retrograde sometimes shows up is it will bring an old person back into your life who is represented by the house Venus is in. So last time that totally happened. But this time it's in my 8th house, so I'm like, who could that be? Like, I don't really want to reconnect with any of my exes at the moment. Although maybe there's someone I'm not thinking of who I would be happy to see. I don't know. I'm not one of those people. Are you guys one of those people who's like friend with your exes? I'm really not. It's not my style at all. But yeah, so this is a more practical way. Now, I will tell you for a fact that the last time Venus was retrograde, I did my hair and I hated it. I actually kind of destroyed it by trying to bleach it myself and the natural way. I fried my hair. It's still, the ends are still fried from this experience. So, you know, I am the kind of person that I'm like, oh, there's a superstition. Let me try to prove that wrong. And then I will go hurt myself to prove it wrong. Not really hurt myself, but you know what I mean. Okay. Okay. So, the point of that whole story is that superstition of like not making like not making new changes to things related to the area of life of the planet. So like Venus rules appearance, beauty, aesthetic things, definitely anything that relates to our appearance or how we smell, you know, how we present ourselves, how we allure people in, you know, all of those things. So the point is that, yeah, it really, I can tell you from experience, it really is true that you shouldn't do that. Actually, to the degree that I bought some hair stuff and I'm like, maybe I'll wait until Venus isn't retrograde anymore, even though it's like my hair is going to look really bad by then. I don't want to mess it up again and have to go redo it. And that's kind of the whole thing is like, if you try to proceed quickly and swiftly in that area of like, there's more of a potential to need to redo that. It doesn't mean you can't do stuff. It's just the likelihood you'll mess it up and have to fix it is higher. Okay. And also, someone commented the other day on my Venus retrograde video that I have out for all the signs. You can watch that after this one. That it's the only one that had them not scared of the retrograde. Please do not be afraid of retrogrades. Well, we should be a little bit more, it's not even like you have to be careful of the retrograde. It's more like you can do whatever you want, but if you try to barrel through that sphere of life, you're probably not getting through and you're probably going to have to redo something. So it just sometimes makes more sense when it's not time to act, not to act. And I say that as someone who will act and then act first and think later and be like, oops. So it's just one of those things that like we can really align our will. And this is where the whole idea of like aligning our will with the universe comes in. And the idea of surrender comes in because it's like when you can read the language of the planets or just know enough about it to know that like there's a time to go forward and there's a time to wait. Rebecca, that stuff is all covered in my Venus retrograde video. So I am going to go back and just talk a little bit more about live readings and how that is what we are doing today. They are available now and they're super fun. It's super fun and it's really nice to get. Some people do natal and some people do transits. So when we do the natal ones, you're getting a look at usually just whatever jumps out to me about your chart. And that's different for everyone. So you don't know what it's going to be because one person might have a really gnarly, like Mars, Saturn, Uranus conjunction. And one person might have like a Venus, Moon, Sun trine. Like if you have a Venus, Moon, Sun trine, we'll talk about how nice that is. And if you have the Saturn, Mars thing, we'll talk about how challenging that is. But it's just cool. It's just cool to see how like the reading sometimes is like telling the story of that part of your life. So that's natal. And then for transits, that's going to be the energy snapshot. That's going to be, because astrology is like a combination of both, right? It's a combination of that snapshot of the sky when you were born. That's your natal chart, the exact moment, of where all the planets were. That contains the natal promise of all the things that are going to happen in your life. And then when the planets go by, those promises get opened up and activated. And this is why sometimes, through life, we actually go through what feels like the same thing over and over again. Why? Because we have that natal promise. And every time that planet gets activated, it can happen again. But this is where we have to have this conversation about fate and free will, because what version of yourself are you going to be when that natal promise is activated? Are you going to stay the same? And trust me, I've been there. Oh, I've been there. Where some challenge happens and I'm like, I really need to change this. And then it comes back around again and I'm in the same place. And I'm like, damn it. I was trying to fix this and here I am again. So I get it with those repeating patterns. But the thing is that with the astrology, we can tell you what will be activated, but I, as the astrologer, can't tell you how conscious you're going to be when that happens. I can't tell you how open you're going to be and how receptive you're going to be to aligning your will with the universe. I can't tell you how much you're going to be able to say, okay, maybe this is happening for a reason. Or how much you might be like I have been in the past and be like, this is the stupidest thing ever. And just resist against it, you know? Um, all right. So, yeah, we are doing live readings. I'm going to stay and chit chat and hang out until we get someone. And usually the way it works is once one person books, a bunch of people start booking. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting too. I've heard a lot of astrologers say a lot of bad things about this year in the astrology, and I feel like, I mean, so in my case, I did not start being an astrologer until after 2020. It was actually January of 2020. I mean, December of 2020 when I started doing astrology readings in my Facebook group. So I can't, I have no, I have no experience of what good years look like as far as like energy forecasts. But I will say that I myself get kind of tired of like the gloom and doom among astrologers, even though sometimes I can see like, ooh, that's going to be bad. So I'm curious, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Are you the kind of people, are you the kind of person that would rather know, like, tell me the bad thing that's going to happen so I can get ready for it and prepare for it and like just deal with it mentally in case it happens? Or are you more of the let's focus on the positive? I'm a little of both, but when it comes to world events, I'm more of a let's focus on the positive because we don't have really a whole lot I don't think we have a lot of control over the bad world events if they do happen. So even if a bad world event is going to happen, unless it's going to be in my house getting on fire or my whatever, something that I could like run away from or get away from, I don't see the value of knowing that for myself. I'm not saying I'm against astrologers doing that. I think predictive astrologers can do that, but I think it scares people. And the reason I think it scares people so much, I've thought a lot about this, is because they don't understand the mechanism. So if you predict a negative event in somebody's life and then it happens and they don't understand astrology really, or they don't have a very high level of consciousness, they will think you made it happen. Let me know in a comment below if you know what I'm talking about. And I am just rambling until somebody books a reading, which there is a link in the top of the chat. The link is working, so anyone can book a reading at any time. Okay. So yeah, so I think that that's the problem with astrology, actually. The problem with astrology is that how it's received sometimes is dependent on the awareness of the person you're talking to. And that's a tricky thing to navigate as an astrologer, because I could say one thing that would totally empower and help one person, but another person with a different mindset is going to feel disempowered and discouraged by the same exact thing. So as an astrologer, I always want to help. I never want to plant seeds in people's minds of what's wrong with them. I always want to help them like cleanse those things and find peace, make peace with what is, what has been, and what will be. So Nico's saying, I love predictive astrology, especially for my own chart. Oh, yeah. Okay. This I don't know about. Thanks for sharing. Musical Neptunian says, yes, astrologers in the old days were even charged with treason for causing a bad event by predicting it. I mean, I'm not like happy about that, but I could see it happening because when people don't understand the mechanism, it's like, I mean, if you went to a fortune teller and they told you someone was going to die tomorrow and that person died, there might be a part of you that's like, oh my God, they made it happen. They planted that seed in my mind and then I manifested it. And it's like this line between like just being willing to look at things as they are and talk about things as they are and be straight up about it. Like, this is a challenge versus making it seem worse than it is, or bringing more negativity into a situation than it needs, right? Because that's the crazy part. That is a crazy part. Thanks, musical Neptunian, for bringing that up. Well, and I kind of do think that most people on this channel probably want the predictive astrology a bit. But I also have noticed that for myself and a lot of people who watch, it's like, what can we do with this, right? If we have a challenging placement, what can we do with it? If there is something bad, what's the way through? What's the alchemy, right? And every planet has its own alchemy of what you do to make that planet happy, how you get in that planet's good graces, how you master the sphere of that planet, what kinds of things you do, how you can bring more of that planet's energy into your life or reduce it if it's causing problems. This is a whole course of study which I spent a lot of last year learning, is like how to work with the planets, what the planetary spheres are, how when they combine in signs and houses, like what's the remedy for that challenge. Um, like it's a fascinating course of like it's just a fascinating concept that because to me that the idea of the heavenly spheres, it's like that's each planet. And if you think of it, it's like I've always thought of that phrase, the heavenly spheres, as like a type of a music of some kind, where each planet has its own song, so to speak, or its own like frequency. Okay. So here we go. I tend to keep my interest in astrology a secret because I'm surrounded by people with more materialist and reductive perspectives. Yeah, I understand this challenge. I have finally started telling people I do astrology in the last couple of years. I think my YouTube channel hitting like 10K was honestly what did it. Because there was something about that number that just made me feel like I'm really doing this. Like I have a real channel and it's really happening, and I'm really like, this is really who I am now. Um, but I can't say it's worked out that well so far. It's not like if I'm in the workplace or something, it's not like I make a bunch of friends and stuff. But I've actually thought about the reason why I thought about moving so much was because of that. And that the reception to that kind of depends on where you are. Like if you're in Southern California or like I do astrology, everyone's like, oh my God, cool. But I'm in Vegas and it's like, people are like, oh, that's interesting. Like it just it doesn't have that like allure to people here. And I'm guessing there's probably other places of the world where some of you live that it's like the people around you are like, okay, weirdo. And I think in some situations, not saying anything is the best thing to do because you got to do what you got to do, man. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. All right. Someone needs to book a reading now. I'm going to just keep chit chatting for a little bit longer until somebody does. Um, because, I mean, this stuff is awesome. And it's so like, I don't know. I think before I learned astrology, I kind of thought it was a little bit more basic. I did not know how deep it went and how much it can facilitate a deeper level of self understanding that is like unmatched. I mean, I can't say anything I do is ever like therapy, but the way it's different from therapy, I can say that, is that when someone does get a therapy session, and I'll just use myself as an example, it's like I have to tell the therapist what's going on, right? I have to tell them, and then they have helped me guide me to a deeper level of self understanding. But with an astrology reading, you don't have to tell me anything. I'm telling you everything, and you can just kind of let it wash over you. And there's something about that experience that is so cleansing, soulful, connected. And even to this day, I'll learn things about my chart that I'm like, sometimes I'm blown away by the thing I've learned about myself, but sometimes I'm blown away by how to the letter the transit was, or how like literal and literally these things can manifest sometimes. Oops. Okay, musical Neptunian saying, I'd like to watch someone else have one. Yeah, me too. I mean, I'd like to do some. So maybe some of these people just got off work. They're going to jump on. Someone's going to jump on. They're going to book a reading. I'm going to be reading their chart. I'm going to be just going around and talking about what their chart means. And then a bunch of people are going to do the same thing. That's what we're going to see happen now. And I did send an email so everyone knows. Everyone knows we're here. Wait, did I? Let me make sure I did. Nope. Oh, yeah, it's just saying yesterday for some reason. Okay, I'm just going to chit-chat a little bit more about working with Venus and what that has been like. So, like I said, I learned some ways to work with the planets, and some of these ways involve things like fasting or wearing a certain gemstone or doing certain activities, like I said, to kind of make that planet happy. So, when you do things of the planet, that planet grows in your life. Now, if you have problems with that planet, sometimes those problems will grow, and this is why it's good to get the help of an astrologer. And this is why sometimes it's good to fast. And so I'll just give an example of one of the things that I did, that fasting did, and that one of the simple outcomes. The thing about working with the planets, though, that I found less magical about the whole process is that if you like reduce an energy, you have to keep doing the thing to reduce it. Like if there's a problem in your chart and you're like, okay, I'm gonna sedate this planet, or I'm gonna like reduce the energy of this planet because it's causing me some ruckus, you have to keep doing that. It doesn't last forever. Now, I think in Vedic astrology they have some forever remedies. I actually remember one of my friends like having to go out every full moon for like 6 months and do a ritual. And like she said it worked, but I don't know how to do that stuff. The stuff I know how to do is a little bit simpler, but you have to keep doing it. So that's the downside. The positive side is that it literally works. So I'll share a couple of them. So one of them was when I did some work with the moon. And so one of them, this is not a medical advice or anything. One of the ways to clear the effects of a planet is to fast on the day of that planet. So I was fasting on the right day for a while, and then sometimes you can do other things, okay, to boost it or whatever, but this time I didn't. All I did was fast for the moon. And the moon represents our body, our health, our comfort, our ability to know what we need to feel okay, the ability to recognize what foods are going to make us feel good, what foods, will make you sick or just don't make you feel your best, what sleep schedule and method of taking care of your physical body. I'm talking about that kind of self care, right? Not like doing your nails and stuff, but like the kinds of things that are going to actually nurture your body and support it and give it what it needs. And so I did this fasting for the moon, and I did it. And a few weeks later, I found myself going through some old documents that I had from a doctor I went to that like explained certain things about my health, and kind of going through it and realizing why they prescribed certain supplements at that time and having a new level of understanding on that. I didn't even try to do that. It just kind of happened. Okay, so that's one example. And the other example is for Venus. And this one was like a little shift but also something noticeable. So Venus represents friends, connections. It's not just love in the romantic sense. It's also just like social connections, friends, people you want to talk to, good conversation, nice ambiance, a nice vibe, all this stuff. Okay. So I fasted for Venus, like I think only one day. And literally the next day, I was late to my astrology class because I got caught talking to this lady who, and the thing that made it such an impact was that I was in a place that I've been a million times where no one ever talks to me. And that day, someone came up to me. I didn't have to do anything and started having this really lovely connected conversation. And so when I say it out loud, these things don't feel massive. But the thing is that those little shifts can be life changing. If you're lacking something in your life and you just need a little shift, it's kind of so easy to do it that way. That's what I found. Okay, so I want to check out Musical Neptunians. Comment, and anyone else who wants to book a reading, use the link in the top of the chat. That's what we're here for. I'm just filling time right now. So you're saying I can't tell anyone how I found astrology because it was so weird. No point trying to explain. Okay, so that just makes me curious, but I understand. I understand that, and I feel like some of my best experiences have been weird. Like the things you can't really tell people because they won't believe you. Or they'll kind of rationalize it or something. Like I remember, gosh, what was I telling someone? Oh, I had a friend, I was telling her about the Mandela effect and the whole, do you guys believe in that? Because it's like all these memories are different, right? Like I remember that kids would go around and say, Luke, I am your father. Like we would say that. We would say it to each other on the playground and shit. And that Mandela effect, that changed somewhere in the history of things. And now it's now I am your father. So if you watch the movie Star Wars, Darth Vader doesn't say that anymore. He says, now I'm your father. And so there's different theories about why this is true. And some people think that, like it's just a collective memory loss. I'm like, I'm sorry. A bunch of people are not, all misremembering the same thing the same way. But I think there's like a small group of people who might be like doing something that is like causing that. I don't know exactly what. Um, but I did back when I was reading tarot, I did a tarot reading on this topic, and I think I took all the readings off my channel now. Um, but it kind of said like anyone who's using the Mandela effect to say they're better or superior, watch out for those people, like those spiritual teachers out there who try to use that particular thing to teach that it's like about themselves. Like just be really mindful of that. I've never seen any spiritual teacher do that yet, but we'll see. Okay. Sherry's saying Virgo 15-degree rising, um, sick every day of 2025. Just got taken out of work for 30 days. Is that from being sick? I wonder if this has to do with the South Node entering your sign. I mean, that would be my guess. And depending on what degrees your moon, especially if your moon is at the end of Pisces, the nodes might be having an influence there as well. But it could be, I mean, it could also be Saturn hitting the moon or something too. I'm not going to go too far out of that, into that, just because this isn't for this video isn't for free readings. It's actually for people to book using the link at the top of the chat. Okay, musical Neptunian wants to share now. Okay, I got visited by a spirit when I was about 9, and it tried to teach me about astrology. No idea how I tell anyone about that. Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, I think you have to be in the right circle, right, to be able to share these things. Did it teach you? You said it tried to teach you. So what happened? Were you like, no thanks? Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Um, she's saying she hopes you feel better. Yeah, being sick is no fun. I got really, really sick. Um, when Mars fucks me up, man. Mars was with Jupiter and they were square Saturn, and that was on my moon, and that was in August. I got really, really sick. But thankfully I am better from that. And I do think Mars, for me, a lot of Mars will show up when people get sick a lot, like squares from Mars, um, timing wise. That does happen sometimes. Okay, so we are still doing live readings. You can still book using the link in the chat, and you have a choice between natal or transit. If you choose natal, I'm gonna, like, as if this were your chart, I'm gonna look and find what's most interesting, So I might start here because this is like interesting with all this stuff like this. Actually, let's update it so it's on now. Yeah, so it's all interesting, right? And so then yeah, whatever is the most interesting, I'm going to tell you about, and it'll be fun. Now, if you choose transits, I'm going to be looking at your chart, but what the planets are doing to it. Is Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius affecting you right now? And if it is, what area of life, what kinds of effects are you going to have? Is Saturn and the Sun, this conjunction, is this personal to you? Is it happening in a certain house? I don't love Saturn Sunday. It's one day a year, but it's like it's gloomy, It's sad. It's a limiting thing. Something is limited, something is serious. Yeah, and then I'm going to tell you like maybe, what Jupiter's helping with right now. Is that personal to you? Is it affecting a certain area of life? Where is the growth happening? Mars, where's the challenge or the obstacle or the momentum maybe going to start again at some point soon that maybe has been slowed down or going a different direction. And then, the moon maybe we'll talk about, but in transit, it's more about what's hitting your moon. It matters. Don't get me wrong. The moon matters for your feelings to the degree that you could even study the transits of the moon throughout the month just to understand how it affects your emotions. I've done this. It is helpful. It is wonderful. It is a great tool. But usually in these readings, I'm going a little bit deeper than the moon because the moon's going to change fast. So even if you're feeling a certain way, the moon's going to change fast. Okay, Sherry booked Oh, yay. Okay, so let me see if I have you in here, Sherry. And then it looks like you picked transits. Okay. Do you want to know more about sickness or do you just want to know general? Because I kind of planned on doing just general, but since you're here, let me know in the chat. Make sure that's what you had intended. Okay, so I'm going to put your chart in now. And while I'm doing that, you guys, I'm actually going to really quickly, I'm going to give it a little more time because it just took a little bit of time for some people to get on here today, and that's fine. Everyone's a night owl tonight. Okay. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so I'm just getting one little thing set up here and then we'll be ready. I'm just going to change the time so if it tells you it's later, Sherry, just ignore that. Okay, so other people can also book too now. Okay, so that's that. I will get your chart up. Oh, you have booked before. I have you in here twice, so you must have booked a few times. Okay, so let me get your chart up, Sherry. I'm going to just double check the dates here, and then we'll go from there. I love your birth time. It's special. Yeah, okay, we're good to go. There we go. Okay, Sherry. Let me set our timer and get going. Ooh, perfect. That's perfect. What synchronicity. Okay, so here we go with your chart. And the first thing I notice here is that Jupiter is on your midheaven. Now, normally I would think this would be more work. Okay, normally I would think this would be more work, but it is squaring the moon, right? By sign. It's squaring your descendant. Which honestly, forget I said that. It's while Saturn is approaching the moon and with the North Node and Neptune all on the moon. So in your case, you already talked about being sick. And so I can see how not not everyone with the moon here is going to get sick, but some people could, right? It could show up as a challenge to health. Why? Okay, here's why. And it's not like, not like everyone has to get sick or anything. Neptune, it represents illness sometimes. Saturn hitting the moon really does. Sometimes this is going to show up less on the body. So for some people, this will show up more as a period of isolation, a period of time where don't have the normal support that they have. And that could be that their manager is gone. It could be that their mom or their family who they normally talk to, they're isolated from or separated from. So that's one of the things that Saturn moon can do. And Sometimes though, it's for some people, it's not that big of a deal. Like for me, one of my roommates was gone and she usually cleans and like makes the house a home, you know? So it doesn't always have to be a huge deal. It can be lots of different things like that where Saturn kind of restricts that lunar energy. And one of the ways that could show up is literally taking care of the body becomes more challenging. There's more to be done. Or it has a limit or something. Now let's look at timing for this. Let's see when Saturn is going to pass your moon. And I hope this is not bad news because it is a couple weeks away. But I see Saturn passing your moon in the beginning of April. Does that mean you have to be sick until then? Not necessarily, but it's possible that as Saturn moves away from the moon, it starts to reduce its effect. Okay. So let's talk about something more positive here. The thing is that Jupiter is still on the midheaven, and that generally is a positive thing. So it makes me wonder if you not being at work, is there something good about it where you get to are you going to get to spend a little time like enjoying something or listening to podcasts, or is there going to be anything about it that's going to be like positive? Is there anything about that being out of work that feels um like I don't know, you get to accomplish something or I know like based on what you're saying it's not like great. Okay, I'm not going to try to make it seem like it is, but it still feels like there could be some possible growth related to your life direction. Meanwhile this challenge is happening. Okay. What else do I see that's happening that's interesting or happy? Let's try something happy. Let me see here. Okay, well, I do wonder though, because, all right, Mars was retrograde in the 11th. This is your eighth house ruler. The eighth house is about trust, but it could also be, didn't you say something? Yes, okay, helping family. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because Jupiter is your fourth house ruler. So your planet of family is at the top of the chart, so it is visible. It's happening. It's important right now. That makes sense. It also makes sense that um, Jupiter and Gemini sometimes will scatter you work wise. Why? Because if you're a Virgo rising, because it makes you want to go in a bunch of directions and you can't do it all. So even though you are at home and you maybe aren't working at home, you're working at work, you might have this feeling of wanting to do all the things or needing to do a bunch of stuff. That is, you might not be able to do all the things. Jupiter might make you want to do all the things at once, go in every direction at one time. So that is one of those things that we can see here. Let me see what else. I think there's something else in here. Oh, Pluto has been hitting Jupiter in the sixth. Well, this is interesting because Jupiter in the sixth often means something about recovery. Okay, like recovery, healing. Sometimes people with this Jupiter will like go away at some point in their life for the purpose to break family patterns, or do some kind of healing or some kind of recovery for the purpose of like trying not to be the way your family of origin was and trying to like, change that. And that can be health wise, but it can be with just behaviors and stuff. Um, Jupiter in the sixth also will be like you want to visualize health. You want to find all the supplements that help you. Even Virgo risings will be like that, but with Jupiter in the sixth, you're way more like that. You're way more into wanting to find new habits, healthier habits, change your habits. Okay, so Pluto was very close to Jupiter around February 11th. That's a month ago. So, you told me that you've been sick for that long. I wouldn't normally predict you'll get sick if this happens, but I would predict if you said nothing to me, that Pluto hitting this Jupiter will cause a change to your home, your family of origin, and your emotional well-being, how you relate to how you feel inside. Whether you journal, whether you meditate, whether you do exercises for the vagus nerve, whether you want to take time to contemplate the meaning of existence and, what's possible in all alternate realities or whatever, that Sagittarius energy. And then Pluto can also change for you relationships. So sometimes the change Pluto causes is uncomfortable, not fun, and requires surrender. So even though a lot of people get sick a lot, this makes me feel like this experience for you, maybe other things happening, have put you in a situation where you're like, okay, I can't do anything about this. I can't do anything about whether the house is selling. I can't do anything about the fact that I'm emotional about stuff or whatever. I just have to surrender to this feeling. I have to surrender to what will work to make me feel better. And so it's interesting because Pluto's kind of putting this squeeze on this Jupiter. So it's like, yes, I'm going to do this supplement. I'm going to do this thing. But then at the end of the day, you still don't fully have control. And so I'm not trying to bring you down, but this is what Pluto kind of brings up, is almost like this fear that I'm never going to get better. And that's what I wonder if you've had that yet, if that's happening. So let me know in the comments if that's happening, Sherry. Yeah, so they can connect the internet. You quit smoking. Yeah, okay. Turmeric, garlic, honey. Wanna learn how to meditate. Distant. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so maybe some of that surrender is just that Pluto sometimes will block. Pluto sometimes will block. So it's not like it's gonna end the relationship necessarily, but it will block you from the normal mode of operating in that area of life, and Jupiter rules your relationship house. Also, Saturn is back then here too in February, especially Saturn was a lot closer to the descendant, and we could say that represents relationship isolation, even if you're in a relationship, either isolation or commitment. So I would expect that some of these challenges might just get a little bit easier for you as Saturn keeps going and gets into April, into May, where it gets off of that moon. I'm even thinking, yeah, I think May, it's still there, but it's not really as strong. And then by end of May, Saturn has moved into Aries. It will not stay there. But when Saturn does come back, excuse me, because these outer planets, they do kind of go back and forth. It's not going to connect all the way to your moon. It won't perfect. Okay. So, while I don't want to overpromise that this is going to be perfect and everything's going to be better and easy, I do think you might actually really feel a big shift when Saturn's no longer on the moon. And what do I want to say about Pluto? I don't want you to be afraid of this Pluto hitting Jupiter. Oftentimes, especially because Jupiter is an outer planet, it's not a personal planet. Some of the really horrendous, sometimes life things that we see with Pluto moon, Pluto sun, Pluto ascendant don't always hit us so hard. It really does mean change, right? So how you approach your health might change more in the next year or so. And how you approach relationships might change, and how things related to your home and your sense of belonging might change, like where you feel like you belong. Might also change, or things that gave you a feeling of belonging before may not anymore. You may need to learn how to do it now as the person you are now. Um, but I don't be afraid of this one. Pluto has been squaring my Mars and like, I'm alive. But now that I say that, wait a minute. Yeah, okay. Okay. Let me think. Let me try to think of what else. There's another thing happening right now that, you had said that you got sent home, like ordered to be home. I wonder if Venus retrograde might be doing some things to your finances. And the reason I say that is because Venus is your money planet. And not only is Venus retrograde, it's retrograding back to this opposition with your Pluto in the second house. Pluto in the second house is that feeling we have inside that's like, if only I get money, I will be powerful, right? Pluto in the second house people usually do not start out in life having money, or if they do, it's like they lose it. Like there's some kind of surrender they have to do at some point in life for money. So sometimes that shows up as like they have a storage unit and they lose it all, or gains and losses financially throughout life. But Venus being the money planet and being retrograde in the eighth house of other people's money might be telling the story that you've already shared with me of um, not being able to work. So I don't know how that's affecting you financially, whether that's a bad hit or a okay one. But it would be aligned with the stars. I'm not saying it's good, but it would make sense if this is a time during this retrograde where you need to rely on somebody else's money. And that would probably be your husband's. um, and let me see. Based on what you said, let's just see when Venus goes direct. Yeah, because isn't that look at how much this aligns with the timing. I don't know when you got sent home, but it's April 12th is when Venus goes direct. So I'm super curious. What is the day that you're allowed to come back to work? Does it align with that day, or is it close to that day? Because that would just make sense. Okay, so you're saying you loaned your son money and you're paying yourself back. Okay, great. I mean, that would also kind of be, would sort of, hold on, where were we? Was this recently? Because that could also be part of the Venus in the eighth, is like you being the one to give other people money. So your money becoming other people's money. Yeah, giving out money is one way that can happen. Yeah, March 31st. Okay, yeah. So then um it would make sense that like maybe by, okay, what was that date again? Hold on, let me go back to it. It was April 12th, right? So like if you're working again on the 31st, won't you be getting paid around that time probably ish, right? Maybe even after like closer to, I don't know, April 15th, 16th. Actually, no, let me get to it. Why does it feel like it's not moving? Oh, because was retrograde, so it takes a while. Okay, yeah, maybe even closer to the 25th is when you might feel like, okay, I'm back to my financial self again. But it does feel like that work stuff is really coinciding with this Venus retrograde. And so what I'm going to do to end this reading is I'm going to give you a date to pay attention to see what happens related to work and money. Now, sometimes this is illuminating and eye-opening, and other times it's just a regular everyday thing. So I never know which one it's going to be. But just in case there's some kind of enlightening, illuminating thing related to finances, related to money, with this Venus, we're looking at the 21st and 22nd. So I would say March 21st and 22nd, really be aware of what comes to you related to the topic of money, how you spend it, other people's money, how they're spending it, and that just might be an important topic that day. Okay. Oh, see, that's an exact date. Brother-in-law moving in April, April 12th. Yeah, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Um, okay. Okay, so Sherry, we are going to stop there just because of time. Thank you so much for booking. It was so fun reading your chart. And right now, I'm gonna just change it to the chart of right now. Um, anyone can book right now. So the bookings are open. You can use the link in the top of the chat to get yours. They're first come, first serve. Whoever gets it first gets it first. And eventually I will leave and that will be it for the night. But if you're on here and it's live and you're able to book the reading, then you're going to get your reading tonight. Okay, so there's a choice between natal and transits. Sherry just did transit, so we talked about what was happening. She gave me some background information, so I had a lot of info already to do her chart, but you can do it with no info and just I'll tell you what I see. Yes, thank you, Sherry. Yes, musical Neptunian, you got what you wanted. Let's see if we can get some more on here. That'd be fun. It's always fun when if a few people book in a row and then the energy gets up and everybody, it's fun for the people watching too. I know some of you watching like to find what's similar to you about it, and then others of you are trying to learn astrology and just find it interesting or want to just see how I read a chart. Let me know in a comment if you're watching. If you want to, some of you are going to be lurkers, and I guess that's fine. Sometimes I'm a lurker too. Um, but if you want to share, like, what makes you want to come to these lives, even if you're not getting a reading for yourself? Is it just fun? Is it just fun to like talk about astrology and stuff? Is it like you want to learn how to read charts or um, something else? Like just hearing more about how the upcoming energies are affecting people, things like that. All right. So, yes, you like to watch. That makes sense. Um, A lot of the real benefit to astrology too requires some serious study. You can learn so much about yourself and your chart if you just know what to look up, like what kinds of things to look up about each planet that will help you understand how that planet affects you. Because this is something not enough people know about astrology is that, and I'm gonna piss people off here, but hear me out. Real astrology requires research. Real astrology requires study. To really predict anything in astrology, you have to look at the past and see what happened last time those planets were there. And this is how we understand in someone's chart, we can see like their baseline for a certain thing. We can see like everything. You can study anything, right? You can look at money and see like when your best money times were and when that's happening again if it is. So you can make the most of that. You can look at relationships and see when you got together with people and when you broke up with people and what the transits were doing and what planets were involved and look for the patterns. You can look at work stuff and see when you got a new job. You can see when you moved and see what planet was activated. And for everyone, that's different, right? Because, like, I have Uranus in the fourth. So when that Uranus in the fourth gets a strong activation, I move. But when it's like really, really tense, it's a bad reason. It's like, oh, that I had to move out of that place because this bad thing happened, or there was a lot of stress and tension and pressure at that time. Um, but it's like not everyone has Uranus in the fourth. So we have to look at other planets for them. And that, I mean, that's a good thing usually. Actually, don't feel bad if you have it, but like it's better if it's in a different house. Uranus doesn't stabilize things, right? And we want our home to be stable. But I know some of you like gypsy souls out there like me are just, you know, living out that Uranus in the fourth or Neptune in the fourth even. All right. So, if anybody wants to, now is the time to book a reading using the link at the top of the chat. You can get natal or transits. This chart on the screen, it could be yours. And I always love doing these because we never know what we're going to uncover, right? It could be something really, really everyday that we just didn't know was connected to astrology. And that makes us feel like, it always makes me feel like I'm just connected to something bigger, you know? And um, yeah, and then sometimes we're going to uncover some like deeper pattern. It depends on the person. It depends on the person. It depends on the energy. It depends on so much. So, that all being said, you guys, the readings are still open. Whoever books first will get their reading first, and then it will go from there. And we'll just give it a couple more minutes here. We'll just see if anybody else wants to go. Yeah, so going back to another little story, I guess it's not really a little story, but we do have, okay, I was kind of rambling earlier about, hey, Captain. So I was rambling kind of earlier about how I don't like to scare people with predictions. And okay, one of the reasons is that the thing about astrology is you have to study every single thing very deeply if you want to predict that thing. So if I want to predict pregnancy, I don't. But if I want to, I need to go look at charts of people who got pregnant and see when they got pregnant and see over and over and over when someone got pregnant. And then after I've looked at like 100 to 1,000 of those, then I can tell you what we see when somebody gets pregnant. And until I've done that, I cannot be predicting pregnancy. I mean, you can, but it's like, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You shouldn't predict pregnancy if you haven't looked at what it means. And this is one of my issues with these super, super new agey astrologers. It's like, how did you find out that this planet with this planet is a portal? Okay, how did you learn that? What did you study? Because I think it's really easy for modern astrologers to just make shit up and be like, oh yeah, this means you have ancestral fucking lineage trauma stuff. And it's like, okay, what did you study to learn that? And where are your receipts? I want to see the receipts. I don't care if you believe that people are aliens. like there's this type of astrology that it's called alien activators, and they're not really aliens, but it's by gosh, I can't think of the name of the guy. Robert something. That's not narrowing it down. Who wrote this book? And in this book, it's like people with certain conjunctions to outer planets have these like abilities, you know, and each one has a different kind of ability. It's super fascinating. What's his name? I gotta remember this name. I don't think it's gonna come up. I think it's like Darn it. It's called like higher self meditations. Somebody like Steinbruch. Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts. Darn it, I can't find it. Okay, I'm stopping. Captain says, yeah, alien activator. No, it's really cool. Damn it. Hold on. I'm looking this up because I want to know it right now. And I can't, I have it on my Google Docs. So let me see if I can just tell you guys about it. I don't usually do this with clients because some of my clients, it's too out there for them. Like, you need to tell me if you book a reading, how out there are we going with this? Because I'll match you. It's called The Inner Guide Meditation by Edwin C. Steinbrecher. That's why his name wasn't Robert. That's why I couldn't find it. So there's like, okay, so it basically, if your sun, your moon, or your rising is conjunct one of these planets, then you're a certain type of alien. And alien doesn't mean alien from outer space. It just means a different kind of person. So like the Saturn power alien, they have certain, that's like with the sun and Saturn, they have certain abilities. Okay. And then the Uranian ones have other abilities. And the Neptunian ones have other abilities. And there's a list of things that will show up in your life if you are resistant to the gifts. And then Pluto does too. And so then, and then it's like if it's your sun, it's like a power because it's more outward. And if it's your moon, it's a vessel because it's more like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like you draw the energy out of the other people. And then if it's your rising, it's a little bit different as well. So it's like, it's crazy. I have all these notes on it, but I don't usually do this because some of my, like I said, some of my clients, this is a little too out there for. Oh, Sherry's about to have a baby, grandbaby. Ooh, maybe she would get there. Maybe she would get there. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I have, let me see. Okay, the one that I would have because it's conjunct the sun would be Uranus. So I would be Uranian and I would be Neptunian. And that does kind of make sense because Uranus rules astrology, right? Um, but sometimes I don't know how much I'm in the maybe in the bad side of it. I'm so do not have. I used to think I was like gonna be a spiritual teacher, and it's like I don't do the shit spiritual teachers do, right? I'm just like normal, living my life, doing my astrology. I'm not drinking kombucha, guys. Um, but yeah, because like the Neptunian side is more like compassion, sensitivity, and that one I really do relate to, right? Because when I first started reading tarot, one of the first readings I gave was like, I've told this story a million times, but in case somebody hasn't heard it, it was like this thing where I could just like pay. I paid. Okay. I paid money to be able to give readings to strangers for free on the internet so I could practice. And I had no money at the time, but I just was like, this is important. I got to do this. And this guy I gave a reading to, I will never forget his feedback because I gave him this reading and I remember the whole time being like, this is fake. It's not real. I don't even know if it's real. It just, you don't feel, when you are giving a reading, usually you don't feel confident. The information just comes through. The confidence, at least for me, it wasn't like I knew it was right. Um, it's, you know, I just was like trying my best. And so I gave this reading and I was like, this guy's request was like, I just don't know what to do. I want to leave the world or something. And I was like, oh no, what's he going to do? I was all worried. Yeah, this is the guy who moves. Okay, okay, yeah. So what happened is I gave him the reading, and my reading said, you're going through this spiritual phase. I think you're going to renounce your material possessions and go to another country and become a monk or live a monastic life. And what did he say in his feedback? I already booked the ticket. I remember his feedback being like, "Your reading is so much good, so much better than any paid readings I've gotten." That like just going on and on about that, and then I remember being like, "Whoa!" Right? I just remember being like, I never really felt like I was that good at anything up until that moment, and even though it wasn't like my life shifted the next day, I was still broke as hell. And I ended up moving, and just like my life was still kind of chaotic at that time. I couldn't really get my bearings with where I wanted to be or what work I should be doing. And it was a struggle back then. But I was really prioritizing tarot and Reiki because I just kind of knew that was the only hope, you know? So, anyway, long story short, yeah, I relate to the Neptunian side, especially because ever since I did Reiki, I find that I really do pick up on emotions a lot more. I have friends who I was friends with for years that I met after I had already started doing Reiki, and they, excuse me, like they have buried rage that I never even knew was there. And it's like I can feel that now, and it's such a different, interesting experience to just kind of be so sensitive now. I mean, I relate to all the other things about the Neptunian stuff, right? Where it's like I need a certain amount of privacy to be centered, right? And like one of the things too that I learned from this, and I'm going to share this for anyone who has Neptune energy or Pisces energy, who feels like they pick up bad energy. Like if I go to the store and everyone's upset, I can feel it. But like when I go to the other store, like if I go to like natural grocers, everyone's happy, dude. Like I love going there because I discovered this store when I was in Sedona, and they have one down the street from my house. And it's like I was there like maybe 2 days before Thanksgiving. I was at the regular store, and then I went to Natural Grocers, and I was like, why did I even go to the regular store? This is insanity. But then going to Natural Grocers, people are still there. They're just not psycho. It's amazing. It's amazing how if you eat okay, you're not a psycho. No. I don't think it's just that. I think it's also it's like a whole mind body thing. Okay, so I'm rambling, but yeah, so like definitely can relate to the Neptune one and the Uranus one, but I also feel like I relate to the challenge side of it. So it's like I don't know what it means, man. I don't know. I don't know if I'm like fully doing it right. Maybe I'm not doing it right, guys. But I think, okay, so, but really, like, I think that this is something that a lot of people who watch my channel or have booked readings with me struggle with is that some of you are so Neptunian, just like me, that you will be doing the exact right thing, but you won't trust it or believe it. I mean, I've had so many times where something very, very spiritual happened. I'll forget it. I'll manifest something fucking insanely cool. I'll forget I can do that. I'll forget I can even do that. Like, gosh, there's so many things that like I'll think of it and it just happens. But it's always something real weird and random, right? Like one day after I did this training, so I was in this really good space. Someone got me flowers, and I remember this so well. I remember thinking maybe I can manifest a used vase so I can put the flowers in it, right? And I was walking down the street, and you know how sometimes people just put a bunch of free stuff out on the curb? Guess Guess who found a used vase on the curb that day? And then immediately, you know what my next thought was? Why didn't I manifest a new one? Like, why in my mind did I only believe a used one was possible? Like, if I would have just thought you new one, there would have been a new one in that box. No, I got an old one. Let me know. Okay, let me know in a comment if you relate to that. And let me check on our time. If somebody, let's see, you guys need to book a reading. Some of you need to book a reading so I can stay on here a little longer. Or I'm just going to do it another day. Maybe tomorrow I could do it, but it might be this weekend. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys, let's do 5 minutes. So 5 more minutes of me rambling about whatever. And if somebody books a reading, I will stay. And if nobody does, we're going to say good night and we'll try another day. These are so fun though. Like it gets so fun when people start doing them. So I just love it. So yeah, that captain and also like, yeah, I do relate to the Neptunian thing, but it's weird because I feel like earlier in my life, like in my teen years, I was really rigid and you wouldn't have necessarily, you wouldn't have thought, I wouldn't have thought someone with such a rigid mindset would become Neptunian. Um, because yeah, I seemed like I really had my shit together when I was a teenager. But no, I was also really judgmental though. And that's the thing that I love about the spiritual path is that I'm not as judgmental as I used to be. And I'm not as much of an asshole, man. I mean, I can still be an asshole. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to just letting people be themselves, man, and not needing to go fix people, not needing to go change people, not believing that I'm God's gift to the planet, and if only you listen to me, you know, da 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 da. It has taken, I think, a lot of personal experiences of just not getting what I wanted and like failing, you know, quote unquote failing, to sort of break that out of me a bit. That sort of belief that I know more than other people, that judgment of like my way is the only way. I still can get that way with certain things where it's like, no, I'm not doing this, you know. I can be stubborn with certain things, but when it comes to affording people a little bit of grace in most cases, instead of like trying to or believing everyone deserves something, you know, like the kind of person who you say like you say something and their response is, well, you shouldn't have done that then. I used to be that kind of person who was like, for everything in life, I thought it was like you have total control and you just control it and you have consequences for your actions. You know, like I was so rigid like that. And at the time, I thought that was good. I thought that was a good way to be. But I found that it's really not, because it doesn't do anything good. Like it doesn't help the person. Treating them like if they only did something right, that bad thing wouldn't have happened, never helps the person. It only makes them wrong. So I try not to do that anymore. Although I'm sure sometimes I do, but I find that I'm a lot more open to the energies of different people, and I'm a lot more like at peace, you know, because like I'm a little more at peace with myself. I don't need to do that to myself anymore. So I don't do it to other people. Yeah, Captain, trying to be confident without being judgmental is hard. I think if we're thinking about astrology, I think about like Saturn versus the sun, right? Like Saturn's confidence is gonna be like the hard ass who's like, you fucker, if you don't do it my way, it's wrong. Like those business people who are like, if you're asking that question, you don't deserve to have a business. And it's like, actually, anyone can have a business, asshole. Um, but I'm getting off topic here. The sun is going to be more of that like confidence that just radiates from within. That's more about just like, I'm just going to be like this. So I think of both of those planets maybe needing to be in a bit of a balance, right? Because like the sun is that like ability to be seen and just like show up confidently. Let's see what Sherry's saying. Okay, anyone who wants the book, you have 1 more minute. I was driving one time a few months back and asked God out loud if I'm on the right path. I had not touched my phone, but the number 66 was on my phone. I looked up the meaning. Are you going to share what the meaning is? I had, or is it there's something about that number that you connected with immediately that made you feel like you were on the right path? Um, and then yeah, Kevin's saying I resonate with that message. Yeah, I've had some moments in my life that I don't always talk about, but like there were a few moments that again I just forget this stuff. But like one time I was like I was in treatment, so I was 14 or so. And I had all these warts on my hands. And I remember going and having like my stepmom tried to like get them off. Like she bought some stuff you put on a band-aid and then took me to a place to burn them off and they didn't come off. Um and then this lady I was in treatment with was like, you can pray for those. And I did. I just was like, okay. So I just prayed that my warts would go away and they fucking went away. Like, I don't remember the day that it happened. I wasn't thinking about it after that. I was young and I was naive and I had no reason not to believe that. And I prayed that would happen. And one day I just looked down at my hands and they were gone and they've never come back. And I had several, like, I still remember where they were to this day. I remember when I was a kid, like picking at one of them. One of them was on my hand, kind of where you write, where your writer's bump is. Yeah. Um, so that was a moment. And I've had a couple other things too that were just like, sometimes this happens and then I'll stop now because it's already past the 5 minutes. Sometimes this happens when people embark on a spiritual journey where in the beginning of that journey, they have a profound experience that is like, if they're doing Reiki, it's like a rush of the energy. Or if they're doing something else, it's like they get a very clear message in their head that's like, do this thing, do this thing. And then it's like maybe their intuition will die down after that, or their Reiki will die down after that. And that's actually normal. That is actually normal. That you would have an experience early on that's way well beyond where whatever level of initiation you're at. And that is because I believe that is because you are getting a glimpse of what is possible down the road. You're just getting it early on as a way to say, keep going. Because in the beginning, when you are doing that stuff, you don't always get the effects right away. Sometimes, like when I was new at Reiki, I could barely even feel it. Like it didn't do anything. No one wanted it from me. Like the energy just hadn't quite moved yet. Um, so yeah, sometimes when you're early on, like it's kind of part of the initiation process to have a big moment that's like enlightening, clarifying, or powerful. And then it will die down. It doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It's just kind of a way to introduce you to that thing. Okay, we're going to stop there. I'm going to come back another day, maybe tomorrow or maybe this weekend. We will do some more live readings. There will be more. I'm not sure which day yet. I'll have to look at the astrology first. And then, yeah, we'll do more. So if you want to get in on a live reading and maybe you're not seeing the notifications, you can always join my email list. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, Sherry, is like Route 66 being like, or does it mean that? Like because I thought it's so funny because I thought of Route 66, but 66 equals on the right path. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to everyone who, does all the things, likes and subscribes and books readings with me and does these because these are so awesome. They're awesome for the other people too, but it really kind of helps me a lot to be able to keep doing this work. So thank you all, and I will see you beautiful